Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Palma Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and today we're joined all the way from the US of A by Melissa Orlick from Isotropic Networks. How are you, Melissa?
I'm great, thanks. How are you doing today?
Good. I think I'm managing to speak. Not quite, but I am managing to speak. We're
It's
now all fully, well, we're coming out of lockdown now, so I think it's things are starting to move and it's starting to get busy again, and I think that's a good thing straight across the board.
I think so.
We'll see, right? So you are the Director of Maritime Communications for Isotropic Networks, and you are a satellite company, a satellite provider.
Yes, we're a satellite service provider, correct.
And that's with the internet, with telephone, etc.
Right, so we do internet and then we'll also do voice over internet. So both of those come through satellite.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself first. Where are you from? How did you get into this line of work?
Yep. So I was born and raised in the Midwest in Illinois, about an hour and 45 minutes out of Chicago. I lived there for quite a while. I was an avid equestrian in my younger years, and then finally attended university, took some time off from horseback riding, and focused a bit on fashion merchandising, then dabbled in broadcasting, and finally ended up with a BA in communications from Loyola University. So had a bit of a different background there. I spent quite a few years in Chicago. I worked at CME Group, which is the Commodities Futures Exchange. We worked in the broadcasting department there and produced all of the live broadcasting hits from the trading floor for national and international news networks. So quite a bit there.
Wow, that's quite a background. And so now you are head of the maritime communications aspect then of satellite.
Yeah, so in 2011, I decided to jump ship from Chicago and move to Florida, joined the family business, which is Isotropic Networks,
Yeah.
and spearheaded the maritime division and actually started a yacht sector for the company as well. And from 2011 to now, we have over a few hundreds of yachts and clients on the network.
Well, let me ask you, a lot of people are quite confused about the difference between satellite and cellular and under the assumption that they can have either one or the other. But that's not necessarily true because in taking a look at your coverage maps, etc., which you can find online on their website, and I will provide the website when we air this interview, there are places that you cover that cellular doesn't. So if you're looking to make sure that you have coverage straight across the face of the planet, you need to invest in both.
That's correct. So cellular and satellite have always played an integral part together. Satellite has always been a cellular backhaul, so providing a backup service more or less to cellular. So if a cellular tower goes down, that intermediate connection issues, the satellite would pick up. So it's always been there. And going into the future with 5G, it's going to need some of these low Earth orbit satellites. It's going to need other geostationary satellites to help bridge some of the gaps where 5G may not be able to, but it may be able to cover it from land to air to sea back to land. So there is going to be continued support for both satellite and cellular to work together.
Well, and something that a lot of people have an issue with is the cost factor. Why is satellite much more expensive?
So satellite, obviously, because we're in space, just the infrastructure alone and building and launching satellites and maintaining those satellites are a lot more costly than obviously building our cellular towers throughout, land.
And has anybody ever asked you if they could, see a satellite?
I personally have not. I know there are a few people very interested in travel to satellite or travel to space. There are, abilities to go and watch satellites being launched. But other than that, though, I haven't heard any other requests on that end.
Well, I won't be one. I'm afraid of heights. But is these satellites now, are they generally owned and operated by individual companies, or are there just the satellites and then you sort of are paying for the use of those satellites for your customers?
Right, so they call them satellite operators. So those companies, actually build, launch, and then will operate those satellites. Then there are corporations such as ourselves that those operators more or less are required by, because we actually take the satellite signal, rebroadcast it from our Earth station, and then provide it back out to the clientele. So they need more or less providers like us to actually provide the service back down to individual end unit clients.
So it is definitely, it's not just as easy as just signing up for satellite. There is a lot of work and a lot of information that goes on in the background.
There is.
And how often are you guys, sort of changing direction and keeping up to date? Is this something that, there's an update every month or every week, or is this a constant changing of technology?
Especially now with a lot of new technologies coming out, there's obviously been the big discussions around the low Earth orbit satellites, from the Starlink, which is, SpaceX, to Jeff Bezos. All of those different organizations are looking at it. Those low Earth orbit satellites are really going to be tying in with the 5G and sort of the Internet of Things. So talking refrigerators and, autonomous cars. They're starting to look into those technologies, and again, satellite and cellular are going to have to be in conjunction, playing a part in that. So for us, again, as a Earth station satellite provider, we have to look at those technologies and find out where they're going to land all the traffic from these LEO satellites to an Earth station, whether it's, how many they need, where it's going to be. Those are all still things that are in development. They're still launching these LEO satellites, so nothing is fully available today, but we have to look towards the future of what's happening. So we definitely are looking at LEO, where we need to be there, where we need to be with assisting 5G. And then additionally, we also have to provide just end client updates and new inventions every day, whether it's different service packages, whether it's different equipment that may be out there, whether it may be different antennas, or whether it's more integration of cellular and satellite just on board the vessel itself. Our whole platform is built off of the iDirect technology. iDirect came out with an LTE modem, which incorporates cellular within the modem. So it does automatic switching from satellite to cellular. So that alone is a product that clients can have today, where they can experience more or less the switching from cellular to satellite.
So essentially, when they are looking to have communication on board, they don't actually have to go through a variety of companies. They can go directly through you for both technologies?
So we do have partnerships on that side, so we are able to do that. But if someone already has an existing company that they like working with for the cellular side, we're happy to just incorporate the technologies together. So it just depends on the client and what they like to do. If they'd like everything to come through one channel, we're happy to do that. But if they have a specific client or provider that they like working with, that's fine as well.
So I know with cellular, the need to have, for example, different SIM cards in different countries. For example, if you're in Fort Lauderdale, you need to have a SIM card for Fort Lauderdale. Otherwise, you're not as important in the lineup of getting, a clear open line. If you're in Palma, it's probably wise to have a Palma SIM card or a Spanish SIM card. How does that work with satellite?
So on the satellite side, we all work out, each satellite has a footprint that covers a specific area. And especially the geostationary satellites will have more or less a broad coverage, right? Where it's just over the Americas, or it's just over the Caribbean area, or a blend, right? It's over the Caribbean and over the US, because that's the specific footprint for that area. So each satellite provider will provide clients with their regions or their coverage areas for where you're cruising to. And then you have that flat fee for all of those areas that you're cruising within. So when you're doing the switching, it's automatic beam switching is what they call it. So the platform moves from each beam depending where the coverage is, or if for some reason you're in an area where blockage may come into play because of a building or mast or a mountainous region, it'll switch to those different satellites that are available there.
And is there extra cost then, for example, if you are switching footprints?
No, so because of how it's packaged, it's typically you get X amount of footprints or X region within that cost.
Well, that's good to know because I know that a lot of people, excuse me, aren't overly familiar with how satellite works. And it sounds like it's actually a lot easier to understand than cellular service, to be honest.
It is. I think for us, we're very flexible with our services, from being month to month to allowing weekly to daily upgrades. And allowing you to jump around the different packages. As we know, even being at our house, sometimes we may never use our internet and we may want to change packages. Having a flexibility like that on board really provides an advantage for them, for their charters, for their owner, even for budgeting purposes, right? If they know that they're only going to go out twice a month, they can, downgrade to either a heartbeat package or just something low just to keep something going, and then upgrade to even a higher package than maybe they never normally were for their charter, for the owner, and still have cost savings there.
That's also good to know. I think a lot of people take a look at the price of things like that and get a little bit scared. But I don't think you can put a value on communication. If anything, this lockdown has really shown us that you can't put a value on communication. It is essential.
It is. And I think you'll only see more communications growing from here. I think it was Twitter that even announced that they're reevaluating how they're having offices and that maybe everyone just works from home now. So technology for that is obviously going to grow, and the communications aspect for it is going to skyrocket because I think people are realizing how much they can get done remotely. So their whole structure is probably going to reevaluate. Maybe their cost savings on not having buildings, but their communications costs may change a bit on that aspect.
Well, and I mean, as you said too, I mean, the next thing you know, we're going to have talking fridges, we're going to have driverless cars, we're going to have, all of these things are actually in the process of being built. And so it all runs off of technology, communication. It just is purely communication. If you don't have that type of communication, it's not going to work.
That's correct. And especially software development, algorithms, artificial intelligence, all those are going to have to play. So it's all going to be these different machines working together. So it's machine to machine, it's going to need cellular, it's going to need satellite, it's going to need backup. They're all going to have to talk together at some point. And we're still in such a development stage right now of it. But I mean, eventually it's going to get that way.
Well, and you take a look at yachts themselves. I mean, in comparison to 10 years ago, the yachts that are coming out now are much more technologically advanced, and everything is literally computerized. So if you don't have the right technology, the right communications in order for everything to work properly on deck, that yacht's not going to work.
No, you definitely need to make sure that all your communications are in sync, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's been really great talking to you, Melissa, because I think you've cleared up a lot of information for me anyways. Hopefully our viewers feel the same way. I know it has been an issue in the past that a lot of people sort of don't understand the concept of having both forms of communication on board. And after having a conversation with you, it is absolutely essential.
It is. And we're seeing it grow as well from both the satellite and cellular side. They're definitely seeing more of a need to have that combined communication.
Yeah. Well, thank you again, Melissa, for joining us here at Yachting International Radio. We appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Stay safe.
Thank you, you too. Once again, you've been watching another edition of Palma Yacht Crew Vlogs. Our guest has been Melissa Orlick from Isotropic Networks. My name is Ria. I have been your host. Join us again for another episode.